This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
And our TorahAnytime.com listeners, as always, we want to remind you that you can listen to the Mishnah Yomis, and that's a free service where you learn two Mishnayos every day. We are about to finish Masechet Gittin. We're in the 8th parak. The 9th parak will be next week, and then we'll be starting Masechet Kedushin. Or you could start from Masechet Brachos. We're archived. We have the entire Seder Zerayim, Seder Mayid, and Seder Nashim. Thank you very much. You have to take one of these and fill it out. You hand me back the kind of stuff. Okay. The number to call for the Mishnah Yomis is 718-906-6471. Again, that number, 718-906-6471. That's Hashem. In a week from this Shabbos, I will be here in Flatbush for Shabbos as a scholar residence here at the Shul. And everybody is invited to come to Flatbush and join us on Speaker Friday night, then again Shabbos morning, and then again Shabbos afternoon, by the Ovis Bonim Shabbos night. Okay, we are ready to go. Okay, Hashem. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem. As Hashem is back. As always, we begin with Shus Asra, Harav Landau, with continued appreciation for all of you for coming, waiting so patiently as I get my act together over here. We learned tonight, my wife and I are sponsoring tonight's shir for the father of a Talmud of mine, Yehuda Osher Ben Zelda. He fell, he hit his neck, he had a surgery, and now he can't move his hands. And we take our hands for granted. You can't move your hands, then you can't feed yourself, you can't dress, you can't work in the bathroom, you can't even scratch and itch on your face. The son has to stand there and scratch his father's face. So we want to ask everybody to please learn for Yehuda Osher Ben Zelda that we should quickly get back his use of his hands, and I should have a Fushayim, the Seksha Afili Yisrael. We learn with the tefillah that all those that are away to Shidduch should find their Shidduch quickly and easily. All those that are away to children should be blessed with Zara Chai V'Kayama, healthy mommy, healthy baby. All those that are looking for Parnasa, better Parnasa, should have Parnasa, the Revach of the Kavai, and all of us should enjoy Lamri, Gezunta, Zitza, Shalom Bayis. We learned that for all those that have been touched with the Red Makla, the Yen Makla, other related diseases should have Refuah Shalema, the Sed Shachar of Yisrael, and all of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. This week's parasha demands a lifetime. Parasha's buddy. As is true, of course, of any parasha, and but this week's parasha is easy to imagine spending one's lifetime just on this week's parasha. I want you to inform Paro about the next makkah, about Arba. So the question is, what's the juxtaposition of telling Paro ahead of time with that you'll be able to tell your children and your grandchildren? So there's a famous Ramban. The Ramban asks, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu was born when Yocheved was 130 years old. And yet the Torah makes no overt mention of it. By Sarah Imeinu, who was 90, the Torah discusses it in length. Right? So Ramban says that the difference is that the miracle by Sarah was great because it was forecasted ahead of her. The Malach says, Shoy Oshev Eilecha, Ke'ez Chayah, V'moyer Hazeh, L'Sarah Beit. Now when a miracle happens that was forecasted ahead of time, that makes great waves. But the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu was not forecasted to Amram and Yocheved, and therefore it wasn't such a great miracle. That's what the Ramban says. So Chazal tell us that the fact that Hashem forecasted ahead of time that the Arba would come, and then the Arba came, that makes it that much greater. That's Lamanta Sapra V'Osnei Bincho Ben Bincho. And by the way, I told you that's what's so great about names. It says, L'chu Chazul Mif'alos Hashem Asher Som Shabbos Baritz. Go and see the great works of Hashem who wrought desolation in the land. So the Gemara says, you want to see the great works of Hashem, you look at the desolation. You want to see the wonders of New York, you look at Ground Zero. You want to look at the wonders of Hashem, look at the sea, look at the sun, look at the rain cycle. What does it mean, Asher some Shammos Baritz who wrought desolation in the land? So the Gemara says, Al Tikre Shammos Al Shemos. You look at names. Because names, Shmo Gorim, a name foretells a person's destiny. That's like forecasting ahead of time. She was given the name Hagar. She turned out to be Hager, the ultimate get. She gave up the life of a princess to become a cleaning lady for Zari name. Right? Hevel was given the name Hevel, nothing, vanity, and he died in vain. Daniel was given the name Daniel, and he became La Adonai, the quintessential Eved Hashem. Right? Esther was given the name Esther, according to many. She was beautiful like Yistahir, like Venus, and she engaged in Sosa. She engaged in camouflaging her identity. And Kohena v'Kohena, we find that throughout the entire Torah, Moshe is Osiyas Hashem because he would grow up like Ropam Moshe. Right? Messiah was chosen from a sheep. So a name has this element. It's a crystal ball, and it precludes the element of chance because it was forecasted from before. The truth of the matter is I had trouble with this Ramban because first of all, Ramban says Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't foretold. My says it says Vayiki Yoru Amiyalda says Olikim Vayaslam Batim. He made for them dynasties. So it was foretold that there would be more children. And why did Ramban only have a trouble with Moshe? Why didn't the Ramban have a trouble with Miriam that was born 6 years before? She was already 124. And what about Aaron, 3 years younger than Moshe Rabbeinu at 127? What about when she had from Al-Safam Bar Parnach at 129? She had twins, and she nursed twins. So Moshe Rabbeinu was anticlimactic. The famous answer that they give is that once Sarah Imenu had it, it ceased to be so miraculous. It was already made possible. The first time was you hear a couple, they have a child at 50, so then the next case is not so miraculous. L'man tisaper b'osnei bincha u'ben bincha leima. We know that a person has a tafkid in life. And when a person's tafkid is up, so then he leaves this world. She leaves this world. That's why Gedolei Admorim used to say, always make yourself new challenges. So that you show that your life isn't finished yet. That's the famous Tosfos in the Seftas Kedushin. That when Reb Tarfon's mother, Reb Tarfon was sick, so the mother came and said, my son is sick, and pray for him, because when I get out of bed and you can't find the cracks, I didn't say cracks sometimes, you can't find the cracks, so he put his hands down and had me walk on his hands. So there's a big schos for Arichas Yomim. So they said he didn't even reach half the level of Kibbut Aben. So It seems to be an amazing thing. You're looking for a schus for a tafel and you put him down? They weren't putting him down. They were saying, don't make it that he's reached the ultimate, the zenith, because then his life might be over. He could still show us much more. That's why we find many times when people went to visit a Rebbe that was sick, they asked him to say a few of the Milei Mal Yosef. When he's sick, give him a chance to rest. No, but they wanted to show him that he was needed. We don't know, we need you. We need you, you can't go away. You can't be taken away. There's so much more we need to learn from you. So, the Pardes Yosef brings down that the Chassam Sofer says that even if a person has performed and fulfilled his tafkid in the world, but if he has children, that gives him a new lease on life, because he has to work on the children. So the Chassam Sofer says that's the pashut shot in the pasuk of V'yisircha Hashem v'toiva v'fri bitnecha. Hashem will give you extra good. V'yisircha means extra. Hashem will give you extra good because of pri bitnecha, because of the fruit of your womb. So as the Pardes Yosef, that's the fact that a lot of times the Balaturim shows us that there's two psukim with the same word. So it says, Ulaman tzasaper ba'oznei bincho ben bincho. It's Ulaman. Ulaman tzasaper ba'oznei bincho ben bincho. And it also says, Ulaman tarichu yomim alu adam. If a person is not only teaches bincha, but ben bincha, but your grandchild too, the Einikel. So that will be Ulaman tarichu yomim alu adam. Because now he's ready, he needs to teach the Einikel too. That gives even more arichas yom. You must know that this is serious business. Some people, they're too busy for their children. They don't realize their children could be their lease on life. They're too busy. Their children, they're always making money. They don't have time for the children. Children could be keeping them alive. Tell people they're older, they're looking to get married, they don't want to take children. You know what you do when you get children? And now you're going to be a father figure for those children? You know that you're getting a new lease in life? There are people today, maybe they won't have children. What a tragedy. Or maybe they'll only have one or two. Who knows which child will need you for a longer amount of time and keep you alive? Birchas Habayis Peruba. I'll tell you a new meaning in the phrase Ben Zekunim. Everybody understands Ben Zekunim is a child that's born late in life. That's the literal meaning of Ben Zekunim. But a child that's born late in life will keep him alive to be a Zakeh. Person has a child when he's 45. It's not exactly Zekunim. 45 years old. Why do you call that Ben Zekunim? Ben of his old age. 45 is not old age. I hope not. Why is it called Ben Zekunim? So the answer is that child will bring him into the Zekunim. Because that child, 45, he won't even get to 20 until 65. And then he has to marry him off and set him up. He's 70, 75. That child will cause him to be a Ben Zekunim. I think that's push shot. It says in Tehillim, David HaMelech makes references to Mitzrayim. Shlach Hoshech, he sent darkness by Yakshin, and it became black. V'lo moru es devoro. And they did not rebel his word. So there's different explanations of this cryptic passage. There's one shot in the Mefarshim that it means that the angels of dark listened and didn't rebel against Hashem. You know, it's not like the Yamsuf. The Yamsuf, when Hashem said to split. So the Yamsuf argued and said, why should I split? I have seniority. Man was created on the sixth day. I was already created in the beginning. Why should I split? So there was a little rebellious Yamsuf. But here it says darkness came, below Yamru Estavar. But that's not so much because why should it rebel? So there's another pshat. And that is that we didn't rebel. This was a very big praise of Klal Yisrael. It became black. The Mitzrayim couldn't move. We could have cut all their heads off. Imagine if Mengele and Himmler and Eichmann and Goring, were all frozen in black. And all of the concentration camp victims, all the Heilige Yidden, would be able to take and cut their heads off. Here we have people that drowned our babies, that bathed in babies' blood, that made us work 600 bricks a day, and yet we didn't touch them. Here we had the borders were open, 7 days the borders were open, we could have left. But it wasn't the time to leave it. Paka Yifta, it wasn't the time to leave it. They left. We could have looted all their homes. We worked for 117 years already for harsh labor. We could have looted their homes. Didn't take anything. That's what David HaMelech is applauding Mika Amchi Yisrael. The commander-in-chief said, don't. We don't. The only thing he said was, Hashem said, I want you to look and see what's there. So later on, when you can ask for a loan, you'll say, look, I know I was in the house. I saw what's there. That's all. So that's a pasuk. David HaMelech says, we say this, we wax eloquent in Tehillim. They compare it to what was going on, Hurricane Sandy, the looting, they had to call out the National Guard. And that's people that had no reason to take from somebody else's property. Here they forced us in labor, they killed our babies. But Hashem said, this is the only thing you do. Shlach choshech v'yachshach v'lo yamru devar. We didn't rebel. David HaMelech waxed eloquently about this. It says, v'yi choshech, and the choshech was thick that lo yiro ish ezah, that no Egyptian was able to see one another. Now, the Sam Sofer says that if you can't move and you can't see, the next thing you do is you call. You call your wife, honey, are you okay? You call to the children, is everybody all right? But they bring down an amazing thing. The ear became thick, that's why they couldn't move. The Yamei Shchosh couldn't move. And since the ear became thick, their voice was discombobulated. The voice didn't carry in the thick air. So they couldn't even communicate one with another. This is another element of the Makkah Choshech, which people don't realize. And it's such a beautiful Midah Keneged Midah. Because we know one of the terrible plots of Paro, in order Paro was alarmed that we were having sextuplets. Every birth was a sextuplete birth. The census Guros of Mitzrayim said that in a few years, the Egyptians would be the Miyat. So Paro tried all kinds of tricks to stop the population explosion. And it was diabolical. One of the tricks is he stopped the women from going to the mikveh. That's why the water turned into blood. Because he stopped them from the toivel, from the dam nidus. Also, he told them that the men have to sleep in the fields and the women have to sleep at home. So he separated husbands and wives from talking to each other. And therefore here, they weren't even able to communicate. It's all mamish Midah Keneged Midah. Now, there was a Sephardi Chacham from around Tzova, David Zoed, who darshans homiletically on the pasuk lo yiro ish es achim v'lo kamu ish mitachtav. He says that lo kamu ish mitachtav, if a person is in the pits, If a person is in a bad situation, whether physically, whether financially, whether emotionally, whether all three, his marital life isn't good, he has stress of parnasa, having trouble with the children, and he's not able to get out from under, he just can't pull himself up. Whatever he tries, it's just another hit, another knock, another bill. The water boiler went. He got 2 tickets on his car. They called him up from the school that his child was being suspended. His wife tells him, why did I marry you? You're such a failure. No matter where he's going, it's just not going well. So the Chacham says that most people, if they're at least thinking people, they start checking their mezuzahs, they start checking their tefillin, they start to daven, they start to say tefillin, they try to learn more, but usually they work on Bein Adam L'Mak. You have to know, he says, that you have to work on Bein Adam L'Chaver. You have to know it's because v'lo ro ish es achiv. Because you don't look about your relationship with your fellow man. That's why v'lo kamu ish mitachto. That's why a person's not able to pull himself up. There are people that are just not nice to one another. They're not nice to their spouse. I told you last week. There are people that abuse their spouse at home, and that's why the boss abuses them at the workplace. It goes hand in hand. There are people that never give their wives a chance to do anything, so they don't get any job. They don't get a chance to do anything. These are all mida keneged mida. We don't look at how we behave with our brothers. That's why we can't pick ourselves up from the bottom. So I saw a Moiridik Gemaisa related by Rav Dinner about Rav Stein. And it's we all know Rav Steinman's greatness, but it's a musar on how a person juggles the importance of Bein Adam L'Chaver. Rav Diner says he came in Erev Pesach into Rav Steinman's house, and maybe he was watching Mechiv's Chametz, I don't know. He came in, and he saw this big chavius, this big barrel of water, huge barrel of water, covered. So he said, Rav Steinman, what's this? So Rav Shiva said, it's a chumrah. He doesn't like to use the sink water because it might be a mashal chametz. And on Pesach, this afilu mashal loy bottle, so it's water from before Pesach. So he said, I'm here every year of Pesach, and you never have it. It's the first time you have it. So he avoided the question, but Rav Dina felt there was a big lesson there. So he pushed him. So he said, well, I'll tell you what happened. He used to do it. One time my Rebbetzin used by accident the sink water, and she freaked out. And she thought she used chametz. So I told her, no, it's only a chumrah. But he saw that he wasn't calming her down. She was frantic. Choshev people, chametz on Pesach is a serious business. They say that somebody, a chassid, once had a business deal to do on Chol HaMoed. And he got psak that it was a dover oven. It wasn't near Srebach, it was a dover oven. He would have lost a big client. And he was allowed to go. So he went, and in those days, you seal a business deal with a bottle of beer. And he forgot. And he had a bottle of beer. So when he realized he ate chametz on Pesach, he went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told him that he has to go into Golus. She packed up his whole family and moved there to Israel. Having chametz on Pesach is serious business. The Raya from Eichel, we won't go into that now. Goes to Yehudim Yoini. But goes to Yehudim Yoini, you're supposed to have Lechem Yoini, you didn't have Lechem Yoini, you had to you have to go into Golus, whatever. But Rebbetzin Steinman was so worried that Rav Steinman decided that he's going to use the word. calm her down that she didn't do anything wrong, he started using Siddur. This was the first year after the Rebbetzin passed away. So he went back to the room. But all the while that she was alive, it was more important to put her at ease than to use the chum. That's giving the right emphasis on Bein Adam U'Chavei. Very important. That's giving the right emphasis to Bein Adam U'Chavei. And that's the meaning of V'lo Yirol Ish Es Achav. When people don't see one another, then V'lo Yikamu B'Tachton, then they don't get out from under. There's a famous kasha on Rashi. Rashi, by the Makkah of Choshen, asks, V'lo Mahevi Aleim Choshen. Why did he bring Choshen? Now Rashi doesn't ask that by Dan Tzvardei Akim, although it's an answer for everything, right? They drowned their babies, the water was full of Jewish blood, it turned into blood. They yelled at us and croaked at us to work, and therefore the frogs croaked day and night, they made noise. It was like having thousands of alarm clocks with different tones going on 24/7. It says that it drove many of the mitzvah insane. That's what it says. Abaddon says, it says Sfardeh 10 times. Because Sfardeh was the worst of the 10 makas. By the way, if I would have asked you which was the easiest of the 10 makas, you would have probably told me frogs. There would be an argument to say that it was the easiest of the 10 makas. Until you see that of Avinel, that it was the worst of the 10 makas. So if you learn Sfardeh as crocodiles, there is one opinion, and now we can understand. Having crocodiles crawling out of your ovens is not a pleasant thing. In the bathtub, in the bed with you, that's not good. Not good to have a crocodile in your bed, in your bath, in your oven. That's not good. But if you learn it's frogs, okay, frogs, they're squishy. It's not like boys. It's not like hail, like they kill you. It's not like wild, ferocious Orav. It's frogs. It says if Avinel says right there 10 times, it's the worst of the 10 makas. Why? Because you couldn't rest a second. Imagine having 1,000 alarm clocks ringing 24/7. Not one. Yeah, you forgot to turn off your alarm clock on Shabbos. That's enough of a chad gadol. Wrap it up with this towel, with that towel. But imagine having 1,000 alarm clocks. It says it drove them insane. Kingdom, they didn't allow us to wash, so therefore we were licensed the day became. But Rashi doesn't go into this. Just by Chosh. Why did he bring Chosh? Now, Rashi doesn't give the Pashut answer either. The Pashut of Midah connected Midah is they made us work in the night like in the day, so therefore their day became night. They blackened our lives without any hope. You have to understand, 117 years of slavery meant people lived and died in slavery. Their life, there was no light at the end of the tunnel for them. That's darkness. But that's not what Rashi says. Rashi says 2 reasons. What are the 2 reasons? Rashi says because 4/5 of Klal Yisrael would die, and Hashem didn't want the Mitzrayim to see 12 million Jews dying. 12 million because 3 million went out, so that's 12 million died. 4/5. You don't want them to see. That's one reason. We buried them during that time. And the second reason is that we should see what they had, so that when we ask them to take a loan, we would know where everything is. They wouldn't be able to deny we don't have. But the question is, why does Rashi ask the question? He didn't ask it by any of the other ones. So it's a very interesting Rav. The Rav, the Bar Shenura that writes on Mishnayos, has a Pirush on Chumash. And the Rav asked this question on Rashi. He asked a lot of questions on Rashi. It's like a Pirush on Rashi. And the Rav says that Rashi was bothered. The purpose of the makas for the Egyptians is v'samti pedus, that they should see that the difference that we didn't suffer and they did. They should know that we're the Am Hashem. But Rashi says that's not applicable here because it was dark. They couldn't see. So they didn't see that by us it was good. So then why did Hashem make such a makkah where they couldn't get this message? The answer is you're right. there wouldn't have been one, but for these two reasons. There needed to be a cloak of darkness so that we could bury the dead without them seeing. And we needed to get into their house and see where all the jewelry was. The Ralbag, no, not the Ralbag, the Radak, there's also a Pirush or a Dak on Chumash. I gave one to Shir on snow. There's a snow tape, an old snow tape. I got to dig that up once. An old snow tape. The Radak says another interesting reason. The Radak says that if it wouldn't be that we had to bury the dead and that we had to see where the loot is, it would have been a healthy thing for the Jews also to be stricken with Choshen. It's a very healthy thing once in a while not to be able to do anything and to have time to think. I always said that's a snow day. Snow day, it snowed 3 feet. You can't even open the door of your house. You can't get out. You can't do anything. You have time to think. You have time to think. The Radak said that would be good for everybody. It would be good for the Jews too. People need time to think. Nowadays, people don't think. They text. They email. They make another phone call. Or they go to sleep. Who thinks? It's no good. Chashafti drachai, I thought about my ways. Vashiva raglai le'bezecha, and then I turned my feet to your testimonies. Ki mimenu nikach la'avod es Hashem. You say that we shouldn't take the animals. Not only are we going to take animals, but we're going to take from you too. Ki mimenu nikach. So, in a sefer called Heichin Sifra, it says, Ki mimenu is oisios, mimenu is mama. The Darshan is as follows. Ki mimenu nikach, la'avod es Hashem. It should be taught Darshan. Ki mama nikach, what should you do with your money? La'avod es Hashem. Let's say a person has a little extra money. It says, use it to serve Hashem. There are so many people that they have money, they put more in the bank and more in the bank. It sits as a dormant bank account. First of all, it's such a poor investment of their money. You give tzedakah, aser b'shul shetisashem, become wealthy. People, if they would know that they could invest their money wiser, he says, Ki mimenu nikach, take from your money, la'avod es Hashem, to serve Hashem. Use it. Use it to help Talmidei Chachamim. Use it to be Margaret's Torah. Use it for poor people, to put a smile on their faces, to alleviate somebody's stress. So first of all, he says is, Ki mimenu nikach is Ki mama nikach. Then he says, Mimenu is B'gematria Kerb. Happens to be that Mammon is B'gematria Kerb. Right? Mimenu is B'gematria Kerb. So he says, first he says, Ki curl nikach la'avod es Hashem. You should take your voice to serve Hashem, both in tefillah and also in learning. He says, don't make the mistake of just reading the words. Say it out loud. Famous Gemara in Eruvin, that Bruria saw somebody learning in quiet, the famous wife of Rameir. Butchebet! She rebuked him. She rebuked him. She said, it says in the pasuk, what are you learning? What are you learning so low for? She said, Butchebet, Amalei like Siv Arucha Bakol Shmura, which is one of the actions. If the Torah is arranged with all Reish Mem Chesed, if you put your whole Gatzka in it, and you say it, then it's Shmura, then it'll be kept. It says Chaim Engel Moitze'eyem, the Gemara says in Eruvin. It's a Chaim to those that are Moitze'eyem B'peh. But I want to go further. First of all, the word Mammon is Mimenu. It's to remind us that all our money comes from Hashem. Mammon is Mimenu. Now that's an important reminder, because you're not going to get, here's a person, he has to engage in a deal, but he has to, use a little white lie. You think you're going to get money that way? The money is coming from Hashem. If you don't employ Emes, it's not God's handwriting. It has to come from Hashem. If there's going to be lying, it's not going to come. Mammon is Mimenu, ki Mimcha hakol. Umiyodcha nasanu lo. Also, Mammon is the Gematria Kel, to remind us that davening is going to help us get the money. That's going to help us get the money. Good kavanah in Baruch Aleinu, not just in Baruch Aleinu. People make a mistake, they only daven in Baruch Aleinu for money. Don't daven in Baruch Aleinu just for money. Daven in Sim Shalom for money. Because if there's money in the home, then there's Shalom in the home. So in Shalom Rabbin and Sim Shalom, daven for money. But not just there. Daven in Atochain and Modern Das for money. You know why? Because if you have enough money, you'll be able to learn. First of all, you'll be able to learn more time, and also you'll be able to learn with your head on straight, and not always worry, and not always with half a mind worrying about the mortgage. Daven for it in Shema Aleinu. No question about it. You can even daven for it in Rafa'enu, because people that don't have money get sick. They can't sleep in the night, they get ulcers. So, ki mimenu nikach lama, mimenu is oisias mammon. I'm going to go a step further. You take your mama, nikach lavadas Hashem. Learn to serve Hashem with money. What do I mean? What do I mean with serving Hashem with money? It's a big mistake that people make. That they think the money I spend on tzedakah, that's for Hashem. Do you know what I have in mind when I write out my check to Con Edison and to National Grid? The first thing I have in mind is covered Shabbos. Because the expensive Shabbos doesn't cost anything. So in the summer, I have the air conditioning running the whole Shabbos. It's covered Shabbos. You have the lights on. It's covered Shabbos. You're cooking with the gas and the stove. It's covered Shabbos. I have gas heat. It's covered Shabbos. Covered Yom. That's the first thing. Whenever I write a check to National Grid, Con Edison, I have in mind covered Shabbos. The next thing I have in mind is the Shibbut of the Ksubah. I mean, Mekayim, the Shibbut of my Ksubah. That, by the way, was a common refrain of Rabbi Yaakov. When after Ma'ariv, the Bachrim would crowd around and want to talk to him about something, Rabbi Yaakov would say, I have to go home, I'm a Shibbut to my Ksubah. My wife is waiting, I'm a Shibbut to my Ksubah. But you have in mind, what does it say in the Ksubah? That we're going to take care of our wives. We're going to take care of our wives. You can't have them in the dark, you can't have them in the cold. So I'm taking care of my Ksubah. Now, more than that, Hashem says, Moshe Meir, it's a deal. Your family relies on you, you rely on me. The way you take care of your family, that's the way I'll take care of you. You have that in mind when you pay bills. You're writing out a bill to the grocer. Simple. I'm Mekayim v'alachta b'dracha. What do you mean? So what are you talking about? Halachta b'dracha. Pay the groceries, pay the budget. Huh? What it says, what does Hashem do? He's on mibei kinim ad kainei. He supports from the small lice to the great mighty unicorn. So if I'm supporting my family, and I'm paying for the flunkin, and I'm paying for the rice checks, and I'm paying for the fruits and vegetables, I'm emulating Hashem. That's a mitzvah d'oraisa of halachta b'dracha. So that's taking the mammon, keep mammon nikach, love Hashem. That's the way. And by the way, when you do that, then Hashem says, it's a pleasure giving you money. You got the right idea. Now I go a step further. Since in today's daf, it had all kinds of gematria. It's fascinating daf today. That Kuf Dalet, if you want to remember that that's the daf that talks about the aleph beis and the gematrias. Remember that Kuf Dalet stands for code. That's how I remember it. It's cold. It's cold. Us Simonim, that's one of the things. They make Simonim, so that's my simon. It's the daf of code. So it says over there, Atbash. Do you know Atbash? Aleph equals Tav, Beis equals Shin. Do you know tzedakah in Atbash is tzedakah? It's an amazing thing. It's very easy to figure out because tzaddik and kuf is daled and hey. So the daled and hey becomes the tzaddik and kuf, and the tzaddik and kuf becomes daled and hey. So tzedakah becomes tzedakah and Atbash. Why? You know why? Because that's the way it works. You give tzedakah, you get the money back. And you're giving what you got from Hashem. It's a very reciprocal relationship. That's why it's stuck. When you turn it backwards, it's also tzedakah. There's a very famous gun. It's a great shot, but more important than the great shot, it's a wave. You have goyim on your block that you have a hard time with. You have goyim at the office that you have a hard time with. You have a goyim in politics, in your county that you have a hard time with. How do we find favor in the eyes of the goyim? We know the way not to do it. We know that it's proven that to be like them doesn't help. It's when we're like them that they vomit us out. That's not the way. What is the way? This is a Moedik gun in this week's parsha. It says, V'yishalu, David Nabas Niyam, V'yishalu ish me'es ve'yayu, V'isha me'es ru'usa. So the parsha chat is, tell the Bnei Yisrael, please, they should borrow from their neighbor Egyptian. A man should borrow from an Egyptian man, a woman should borrow from an Egyptian woman. The gun says, would you call a Nazi Re'eyu? Would you call a member of the Inquisition Re'eyu? What does it mean? V'yish'alu ishmei Re'eyu. These are people that buried our children in the walls of Pimpim and Ramses. Well, all of a sudden they're our friends? V'yish'alu ishmei Re'eyu. V'isha me'es rusa. Ha! It even grates on the ears. Plus, the gun says throughout Shas, Re'eyu is only Yisrael. Don't say Re'eyu by Yid, by God. So what does it mean? Yishalu Ishmeis, Re'eyu Ishmeis. Says the gun. Hashem was telling them, you want the goyim that you should find favor in their eyes? Be nice to one another. If you're nice to one another, Mida Keneged Mida, they will be nice to you. And he says that's what happened because they hated us. It says by Yakutzum Bnei Yisrael, they hated us. And all of a sudden it says in the pasuk that Hashem Nosan Eschela Om B'nei Mitzrayim. Now we know that this was. There was a lot of factors over here. What happened? Yosef saved the land. We were the saviors of Mitzrayim. Yaakov came, the waters of the Nile rose. Yosef saved the land, and all of a sudden we became mamish hated. What happened? So there's a medrash. The medrash says this is the first case of assimilation. When Yosef died, we started saying we want to be like the Egyptians. We want to be like them. We don't want to be different. Later on, we took on their idols. We assimilated. But Timali Aretz says the Medrash, Miyah! Immediately, when we wanted to become like them, Hashem activated a safety mechanism that they repelled us. That's what happened in Egypt, in Germany. When Jews wanted to become more like the Germans, then Hashem made us wear the yellow stuff. And even the Jew that had a Catholic wife and didn't consider himself Jewish at all now had the yellow stuff. When we became too near in Spain, We were repelled. Now, when we were coming back, so Hashem says, okay, we can revert back to the norm. And Hashem gave Cain, Yisrael Be'enim Yitzhak. Now, there was also another element. We became neos in the eyes of the Egyptians, abnormally so, to protect us from being molested. An amazing thing. Sarah Imeinu went down as a free woman and she was adopted by Pharaoh. Here we were slaves and none of us were molested. Hashem put an unnatural loathing by Yakutsu B'nei B'nei Yisrael. They were disgusted by us. But he did that to protect our wives, to protect our daughters. Same thing happened now in Eretz Yisrael. If it wouldn't be that we hate the Arabs so much, there would be such assimilation with the beautiful Arab girls. There would be millions of Arab Jew Arabs. They're our cousins. They're very pretty. But they blow up our babies. So we have a natural loathing for them. That was done to protect us from assimilation. Now, my good friend Yossi Tov suggested to me also, and it's worth mentioning, that you have to understand that when Yosef was viceroy, look what he did to them. They didn't have food. So after they used up all their money, he took their lands, then moved them all around. They moved everybody away from their homes, put them all in those. The whole land. He did that, of course, so that we shouldn't feel like strangers. He did that for our benefit. He made them all strangers. But think about what was the feelings of the populace to this Jew. He forced them to circumcise themselves, right? All of them. You want food? You gotta cut yourself up. Then he made them slaves to Pharaoh. Took away their freedom. We can imagine that the sentiment, there was a buried sentiment of loathing to the Jews. While Yosef was in power, they couldn't do anything. So here all of a sudden there's a turnaround. That Hashem gave Chayin Ha'am B'nei Mitzrayim. So the Goyen says that this was caused by us giving and lending to one another. So the Goyen is telling us an interesting dynamic. You want that the guy in your neighborhood, the guy in the workplace, you should find favor. Then treat your neighbor, your Yiddish neighbor, and one will generate the other. Tell the guy. And a Yid, a dog didn't bark. So it's a famous shot from Rabbi Chaim Sonnenfeld. Just want to mention quickly that it's how Kirsch Brothers still what's the other name. He says the dogs didn't bark. They were rewarded for all time. The trade for Leisha the Kelef Tashim. They get the trade. Only if not, no dog around them offered Timkeren enough. The Chamorim also helped us. It says that each Jew went out with 70 donkeys. And it carried all the stuff that we brought out of Mitzrayim. Right? And the donkey was rewarded that a Petach Chamor Tifter B'Seh. So ask for Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, the dog got Treifa, and the donkey got Kedusha. Why? He says simple. He says the dog, when there was a conflict between the Jew and the Egyptian, what did he do? He didn't take sides. He was quiet. For that, you get a trade. The donkey bared his back and helped us. For that, you get Kedusha. There are people in shul, they keep quiet. They don't want to get involved. That's a behavior of a good dog. A good little dog. Interestingly, that they bring down one of the Mekaris for the Afrikaans so many Kurds of African stealing the African. We know that helps to keep the kids up. On every Pesach, I tell you that when the child starts asking for African for an iTablet or a car or a vacation in Spain, so then they outgrew the African. The purpose of the African is they shouldn't go to sleep. The one that's asking for a trip in Spain is not going to sleep. So they outgrew the African. But what's the African? What's the purpose of the African? So, of course, one thing is that it's that night, the night of the Seder is when Yaakov stole the brachas. So that's why he brought two goats. One was the Korban Pesach, one was the Korban Chagiga. That's why he brought the Yayin, right? So it says that Bo Achicha B'mirma, we steal the African as a reminder that the son stole from his father, the brothers. And Bo Achicha B'mirma is with the African. But there's another Makar for African, and that is, it's brought down, the Gemara says that Rav told Rav Asi, his son, don't live in a city where the dogs don't bark, because then there's going to be a lot of thieves. So on the night of Pesach, when the dogs didn't bark, there was a lot of thievery. So therefore, that's why we steal the African. That's put down. That's one of the Makars. Now, there's another Makar that the dogs didn't bark. So normally, if our child steals something from us, we would say something. When we don't say something, that's a memory of the dog's not barking. The only thing difficult about saying that is that's putting the father in the role of the dog, which is not so geschmack. But it is a good symbolism. You don't mind being compared to a dog. There's a mitzvah that happened with one of the Samson's Talmidim, Laida. One of the Samson's Talmidim went off the derech and followed Moses Mendelssohn. The Haskalah was very alluring. It unfortunately took away a lot of great minds, and even if Sam Sofer was a great champion against the Haskalah and against the theological movement, he had Talmidim that went off the derech. So a Talmud came to him and he said to him, "Where is the Rambam alluded to in the Torah? It says Afayt ba'Afayt ba'Kulam." So Rambam must be one of the greatest people, Moshe. Where is the Rambam mentioned? So in some Sefer told him on the Shabbat, it says Laman Revos Moisai Eretz Mitzrayim. This week's Parashas. To increase wonders in Eretz Mitzrayim. So he says Revos Moisai Eretz Mitzrayim is Rambam. What do you think is Rambam? Revos Moisai Eretz Mitzrayim is Rambam. Why? Because the Rambam was in Egypt and he was a great wonder. Right? So the voice Eretz Mitzrayim is Rambam. So he says, okay, where does it say Moshe ben Menachem from Berlin? That was Moses Mendelssohn. So on the spot he told him, Ki moshkosam bohem mumba. That corruption is in them, mumba, which is Russian Tavis, Moshe ben Menachem Berlin. Amazing thing, right on the spot. Okay, now I'm going to share with you, there's a lot of shiurim like this. The main thought I want to share with you. I've talked to you about this in the past, but I want to elaborate. It says, Re'u kiro neged pneichem. Paro warned them, my astrologers told me that there's a koicha, there's a star by the name of Ra that's waiting for you in the midbar. Re'u kiro neged pneichem. Rashi says from the Haggadah that koicha be'echad yesh ba shemau, and it stands for dam and hariga, blood and killing, and it's going to meet you in the midbar. And Taka, when they sit with the Egel Azav, Rashi says. So Hashem wanted to kill Klal Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Lama Yonu Mitzrayim, V'ro Yitziyah Mitzrayim. This is the Ra. So the Yenochem Hashem, and instead, what was the blood? The Yeshua, when they got to the Eretz Yisrael, the banks of the Yarden, there wasn't the Chush of the Derech, he mauled them, and there were rivers of blood from the Milah. That was the Ra. So the Chidah says that Rashi says, Yeshua said, "Ayoim galoisi escherpas Mitzrayim." I removed the shame of Egypt. So the Chida says that Paro was saying, "You're going to get it from the Egyptian god. The Egyptian god is Tleh, is the sheep. Tleh is B'kamati Adam." Very interesting. Both are 44. The sheep it's going to get. That's going to be the blood. And when it became the blood of the bris, it says, "Ayoim galois yetzcherpas Mitzrayim," to claim that it would be the Egyptian god. I rolled off you the blot of the tleh. And that, it fits in beautifully, that when we put on the mashkot for Hayadam Lochem Lo'oitz, what was the dam? It was the dam of the tleh, the Korban Pesach, that we slaughtered it there, and the dam of the bris, which would be the raw. That was the ice. Hayadam Lochem Lo'oitz. And it's more than that. It's so gorgeous. Because you see, Paro was Niba, Va'im Yodea Ma Niba. He said, "Ru'u ki ra neged panecha." Now, ra, we said, was the Milah. Right? So, Ru'u ki ra, there's the Orla, neged panecha. That's the Pan Shel Tachton. The Pan Shel Tachton is the male nakedness. So, Ru'u ki ra, that's the Orla, which would cause bleeding. How do we know Orla is called ra? Because remember we said, "Vatera Yisrael Kitayvu," Bisya saw the whole, they saw Yechad saw the whole room fill up with light, and we said, "What's Kat Kitayv?" Shenoy L'dmo. It was born circumcised. So that means Ra is the Orla. So Ru'u ki Ra, the Orla is Neged P'neicha by your Pan Shel Tachton. That was the Ra. I didn't realize he was saying it. And he said, "B'chun La'agvarim." Let the men go. He was Niba, men Yodea Ma Niba. Of course, this is just the beginning. Listen carefully. Because it's Mayadik. Remember, I talked to you about the fact that I heard first this theme from Rabbi Wallace. Rabbi Wallace. I developed it further, and I want to develop it even further. If something is in the stars to happen to somebody, it's going to happen. But you could change how it happens. There was going to be blood. But instead of being the blood of violence, the blood of death, it was the blood of Milah. But there had to be blood. That's what some Sefer says, "Yad ber amim tachteinu, ulu'umim tachas ragleinu." Yad ber amim, give a pestilence to people instead of us. If we were supposed to get it, let it be by the Goyim. Ulu'umim tachas ragleinu. It's going to have to happen, but let it happen to somebody else instead. He said a very interesting thing. He says, some Sefer doesn't say this, the Masik Ha'ar says this. He says the famous Gemara that Rav Chanina ben Daisa was able to say, "Zechai v'zemes." Right? Remember the Gemara in Brachas? If the tefillah was shagar b'piv, so then he said Zechai. If not zemes, so he asks, why would Rav Chanina ben Daisa say zemes? Even if the person's gonna die, you're gonna tell somebody he's gonna die, it's like killing him. That's what it's saying. So he said that's not shocking Gemara. You learn wrong shocking Gemara. Zechai, this one lives, but if this one lives, the guy has to die instead. Somebody has to die. So Zechai, the Zemes, somebody else has to die. I'm wondering if this could be why in Shemona Esrei we say Baruch Atah Hashem Roifei Choylei Amo Yisrael. Why don't we say Roifei Choylei? Because Goyim too. Why don't we say Roifei Choylei? They're good Goyim. Tzadikim Atzayim. But when the Rebbeinu Shalom is Roifei Choylei Amo Yisrael, then somebody else has to die. So now listen carefully. If you remember, a few years ago I told you a story that I was Isaac in the Shalom Bayis problem on Motzei Shabbos right after Marav. And I got so orangutan with the couple that I forgot to go home to make Havdalah, which I never do. Never, ever, ever. And then I missed my Motzei Shabbos learning program to speak to the boys, which I never ever do. By that time, 1,000 people were looking for me. The Shainim and Homeland Security and the FBI, and I knew that's what was going on. Because my wife got frantic, my pregnant daughter got frantic, then everybody got frantic. It was like by the time they found my car and the house, there were like 100 cars on the block with sirens. You know, so at the time I remember saying that I had to be missing. It could have been that I would have been Rahman al-San, taken hostage. But instead I was helping somebody for Shalom Bayis. But I had to be missing. Rabbi Wallerstein used an example that somebody came over to him and said, I'm embarrassed. Could you go around the shul and ask for me for money for Achnosis Kama? He wasn't comfortable, but the man pushed me, went around. And then he said, he thought to himself, he was supposed to be begging. It could have been for himself. At least he's begging for somebody else. So I had a ma'isa today. One of my mispalim, a dear Talmud, I get a message on my computer this morning, an email from him, that he's in Manila in the Philippines. He lost his credit cards, and he has his passport. He needs me to wire him $1,860. I knew he wasn't in the Philippines. He was just at the shir the night before, and he didn't tell me he was going to Manila. So I knew it was a hoax. But he has a very big email list, and there were some people that were trying to wire him money. It was a scary thing. And the whole day he spent on trying to figure out how to protect his identity and contact all the people that got hacked into. So I told him, look, you were supposed to have your loss of credit cards, and you were supposed to have this happen to you. Instead of being in Manila, Philippines, you did it this way. You were making it this way. This is a big way to look at life. And I want to tell you something. It says in Gemara Medot in the Doran that if you go to be Mavakar Chayil, it saves us from Yisurim. According to this, it's partial. Here's a person, he finds himself in CCU, cardiac care unit, visiting someone. That means that he was supposed to be in CCU. But at least he's in CCU visiting somebody and not hooked up to the bed. Go visit somebody in Rusk in a rehabilitation center. It's better to be in Rusk visiting somebody than being there for 2 torn meniscus or a new hip. Really, really, a mahalach of Chaim to think about. By the way, this is the whole idea that Sukkah protects one from Galus. Right? You say that. If I have to be exiled from my home because of divorce, or going to the hospital, or going to jail, or losing a job and having to move, let it be instead that I go out to the Sukkah. It's the same concept. The Chidah says on the pasuk Tashpisu Sa'ar Mibatei. The Chidah says in the pasuk Tashpisu Sa'ar Mibatei. We should destroy Sa'ar. Chidah says that we know that chametz is a very big anomaly. It's also b'mashu, smallest amount. It's also with an isikaris. It's a big anomaly. The Gemara says 2 reasons. Number one, the reason why it's also b'mashu is because people are not begiling it. Since they eat it all the time, they don't separate themselves from it, so it needs extra precaution. And number 2, because it's so severe, because it's a chorus, and not just there's a lot. So the Chidah then says, note, what chametz stands for. What's the Sa'ar Shebe'isa? The Sa'ar Shebe'isa is what agitates the dough to rise. The lowly matzah looks at the puffed up challah and says, what are you so puffed up about? We have the same ingredients. So chametz represents gaiva. And gaiva is also b'masha. That's what it says. Ma'ay have a shvalua. That's why it says b'masha. Now, when we talk about that, first of all, as it says, shetikva sena shrima. You know why we have to be humble? Because that's our only hope. Our only hope is when we get upstairs and Hashem says, you know, I had so many plans for you. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So we'll say, Rabbi Mishalano, Zachar ki ofrana. Shetikva sena shrima. But if we backed it arrogantly our whole life, we can't say that. Shetikva said, that's our hope, that's our defense, if we're humble. But that's what the Rambam says, in all areas, we're balanced. We go to Derech HaMitzvah, the golden way, the Shvil Azov, but not when it comes to Gaiva. By the way, a practical application of Gaiva is don't be so sure of yourself. There are people that they're so sure of themselves. Whether it's with their wife, with their husband, with the people in shul, with their rabbi, with the Rosh Hashiva. There you go! That's about God. You know? You don't even need to listen? That's about God. Any bit of that is no good. It's like comments. It's also b'masha. And it's very serious. That's what it says. Toya bas Hashem kol gvalei. This is one of the psukim, by the way, that in the Batei Musar, they repeated over and over and over again 100 times. Toya bas Hashem. That sing-song tone. Like they would say, Toya bas Hashem kol gvalei. We say it 100 times. Miller said. Miller was in Sabbath. He used to say. That was one of the psukim that they would say 100 times. Toya bas Hashem kol gvalei. I'll conclude with two quick thoughts. The first is that Makas B'chayris, which we commemorate always. We commemorate it with the Tanas B'chayrim on Erev Pesach. We commemorate it when we eat the matzah that represents the Korban Pesach. Right? And we say, Sheposach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Al Botei B'nei Yisrael. They passed over us and we smoked the firstborn. We commemorate it by a Pidyon Haben. The fact that Hashem killed every firstborn, from Bechor Paro and Bechor Ashvi, from the prince, the royal prince, to the Bechor of the captives, the Bechor Behemah, they all died. Every animal, the firstborn in the litter, died. Amazing thing. It was to teach the world that Klal Yisrael is B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. He's my firstborn son. And you tampered with my firstborn son. That's what a Jew is. A Jew is B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. That's who we are. We're not just chosen people. We're the firstborn. You know what is our firstborn? That's the way we are to the Rebbeinu Shalom. B'ni B'chayri Yisrael. It's a great lesson. So that's how special we are. Finally, it says, "L'man tia Torah Hashem b'ficha." Put on the tefillin. "L'man tia Torah Hashem b'ficha." So the Chidah says that "L'man" is b'gematria Kates. "L'man" is 190. Kates is 190. So the first thing he says is that when we think about the Kates, the end of life, that should cause Tia Torah Hashem. Because Ashrei Mishabal Kanim Talmud B'Yom. Torah is mitzvah. It's like the Gemara says, "Daf Beis Amar Aleph and Avodah Zarah L'Aslavai." Hashem is going to sit and say for Torah B'Cheikai, "V'Omer Kol Mi She'asik Ba Yomai V'Yirto Scharo." Whoever spent time, come and get it, boys. Come and get it. Then the Romans are going to come. And they're going to say, we built bridges that they should be able to go on Torah. And we made marketplaces. that they should be able to learn easy, and bathhouses to rejuvenate themselves, and Hashem would tell them you're full. You build bridges to collect taxes. You build marketplaces to set up your zaynas. You build bathhouses to rejuvenate yourself to sin again. They're full of it. But the bottom line is that the case, you want to think about, when we think about eternity, when we think about the ultimate savings, the ultimate investment for oil mabo, which is endless, case, Lamati Yeter Hashem. That's the case. Lamati Yeter Hashem. But it's more than that. He says that what's going to bring the Geula, the case, is Torah. So the first base of English was destroyed. Because of Torah. And it's Torah that's going to bring the case. But I want to go one step further. Laman is 190. What does it say? Sha'akosh Baruch Hu Chishev es HaKetz. Why do we get out to it, right? Moshe Rabbeinu asked Rabbeinu Shalom, what merit do they have to leave? They're sinners. Oh, but it's Yachas it's Shai Tabna, so the Kimalora, that's Torah. The man is Kates, Tiyater Hashem B'Fikra. That's why we were redeemed from Mitzrayim. Rabbi say, I'm saying this year, it's almost 30 years. I really never came on to anybody to ask them to help the shul, but my shul is broke. So somebody donated 4 tickets to Eretz Yisrael, and we're raffling off. The first prize is 4 tickets to Eretz Yisrael. So a raffle is $36. There's only going to be 2,500 raffles, so maximum. A raffle is $36. 4 raffles is $100, and 10 raffles is $200. So if I could ask my Talmidim if anybody could buy 1 raffle or 4 raffles, it would be a big help for my shul. You could do so now. Mara will be at 11:30. The CD will be ready shortly. But Kanani ben Akash Amir Ratzak Kodesh Baruch Hu Zakos Yisrael the Fikra Kibbul and Torah Mitzvahs Shenhem Adonai Kofetz Amat Sitka Yaakov Torah B'Yad.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.